Are you rolling? Hi, Kerry.
Hi, Chris.
How's it going in the hot seat?
It's the first.
Yeah.
Well, a third.
Is it?
Yeah, we had to do those talky things for Robert.
Cue the music. There we go. I guess this is it. Sorry about that.
Don't you get fined for things like this on the set?
You get thrown off the set, right? Did you do stuff? Was it for the DVD or something? The interviews?
Yeah, interviews for the DVD. Walmart, Iraq for sale.
Right.
But this is really under a special lighting situation.
Yeah.
It's different. Feels special. Feels important.
Yeah. Just for the record, just tell us your name and what you did on the movie.
My name is Kerry Candaele, and directing, producing a movie on Beethoven's Ninth called Following the Ninth. A journey across the world, around the world, following the impact of the Ninth Symphony, Beethoven's final symphony, on various people's lives, from China to Chile to Japan, the United States, and beyond.
Now, do you want me to ask you some questions, or do you want to give your...
Yeah, you can ask some questions, and then I'll fill in
then
some things if I don't get to them.
Okay. So the Ninth Symphony, do you remember the first time you heard it?
I don't remember the first time I heard the Ninth Symphony myself, but I do remember the impact of it. Or I do remember falling in love with it at some point, at some time, and I think it was perhaps in a car, driving up the road, maybe up 101 or that way up to San Francisco. But it was the third movement that was really captivating for me. It was the adagio, the slow part that has this serene, sweet melancholy to it. At least that's how I hear it. People describe it as a pastoral section of the symphony, this slow retreat from all the Sturm und Drang, the chaos of the other parts of the symphony to that point. But it has this it had this impact on me that was just beyond words to describe. It reached the deepest part of me, that my own melancholy, perhaps, my own sense of the tragic, which I think in some ways this symphony embraces. This Ninth Symphony, this final symphony of Beethoven.
And when was that? How long ago was that?
Oh, it's probably been 20 years that I first fell in love with it, anyway. And it was probably instantaneous. It was probably love at first listening.
And then you would revisit it occasionally, kind of play it? Or?
But I always listen to it. I really don't come out of a classical training or classical music world. My first love was rock and roll, and grew up with the Beatles and all of the other bands of that era. But this symphony of the ones that I did listen to was the one that really captured me in a way that only rock and roll music did to that point. And there was something in it that was so deep and profound, and it just demanded a certain stretching of the imagination, and it was so. It covered such a beautiful trajectory of human emotions that I couldn't stop listening to it once I heard it the first time, which it allowed me to go back and to listen to other of Beethoven's works. But the Ninth was always the most dear to me I guess for some of the reasons that so many people love it and find it so powerful that it speaks to the depth of longing. It speaks to the desire for happiness, joy, and it embraces all of the human emotions: rage, fear, melancholy, depression, exultation, joy. It does all of those things in four movements, and it's not just the fourth, which is the most popular and the one that people know. It's just in their head. it's the whole journey through the symphony itself that was so powerful to me, and it takes you everywhere. It takes you everywhere emotionally. That a symphony of that grandeur and brilliance should take you.
Mm-hmm. And so, from the point where you first heard it, and then, at what point did you kind of look at it as? When did you have the idea to make a film about it, and how did you kind of find out how the Ninth had moved people all over the world, basically? I mean, how did you find that out?
I loved this music so much. I thought it was so powerful. I knew that it was universal in its traveling, since it was performed in 1824. I knew that it was important. I knew that it had gone everywhere. I knew that it was a world piece, and I knew somehow also that it was an eternal piece. It was one of those pieces of art that will last as long as human beings are here. I didn't know the specifics of how people listened to it, how people used it in a sense, and how people embraced it in their daily lives, in political struggles, in social situations. That was part of the reading that I undertook to discover not just Beethoven's music, not just the Ninth music, but Beethoven's life. Because it's difficult to keep Beethoven's biography out of his music, because he's the iconic romantic figure, the person who's torn by his own genius, who's unhappy, who suffers, but transcends the suffering, or somehow takes that pain. And it's certainly true that Beethoven suffered enormously in his life, ill health and his deafness for the latter part of his life. His family situation, never being married, but wanting to, never having a deep love, but wanting one, his irascible nature, his complete alienation in some ways from the people around him, from his society, but taking all of that and the disorder of his life, and turning it into beautiful, concentrated, immaculate order in his music. So reading about him and reading about his life, one comes across the places where this music, the Ninth specifically, has had an impact, and that included at Tiananmen Square in 1989 when students were playing it, included 2 months later when Leonard Bernstein played the Ninth Symphony, performed the Ninth Symphony, conducted it at the fall of the Berlin Wall, included in everywhere you look, really, where people are trying to understand themselves, their world, their inner demons, and how to understand them.
That's great. Doing great, Kerry.
Just feel like I'm talking to a friend.
Yeah, that's good. So, let me just see where.
Kerry, do you have a handkerchief or anything?
Do I have a handkerchief? Do I need to wipe something?
Just on the floor.
A little bit of sweat?